When my husband told me he had a surprise for me, I smiled. I remember that smile so clearly now. It was a Tuesday morning in October, and the sun was coming through our kitchen window just like it always does. I was making coffee, and he came behind me and put his arms around my waist. He said, "Trust me. I have something planned for you. Something really special." I turned around and kissed his forehead. I believed him. After 32 years of marriage, I still believed him. That was the last happy moment I remember. The last moment before my world changed. I did not know that in just 3 days, I would be sitting alone in my car outside a lawyer's office, holding divorce papers with my husband's signature already on them. I did not know that the surprise he was planning was not about love. It was about leaving me. It was about ending everything we built together and doing it in a way that would hurt me the most. I think about that morning so often now. I think about my hand holding the coffee cup and how warm it was and how safe I felt. I think about not knowing that the man I loved, the man I chose to spend my entire life with, was planning something that would break me into pieces. People ask me how I did not see the signs. They ask me how I did not know my own husband. But that is the thing about love that has lasted so long. You stop looking for signs. You stop being afraid. You think that you are safe. You think that whatever happens, you will face it together, because that is what marriage means. That is what forever means, but forever is not always true. Sometimes forever ends on a Tuesday morning, with a cup of coffee growing cold in your hands, and a smile on your face that means nothing. I want to tell you everything. I want you to understand how this happened. I want you to know that I am not angry. After all this time, I am not even sad anymore. I am just tired. I am tired of trying to understand why people hurt each other. I am tired of wondering if I did something wrong. But mostly, I want to tell you the truth. Because the truth is the only thing I have left. And maybe, if you listen to my story, you will learn something about love. You will learn something about trust. You will learn something about what happens when the person you love most in the world decides that you are not worth fighting for. This is my story. This is what happened to me. And I am going to tell you everything. My husband's name was David. I have to tell you his name, because he was real to me. He was real, and he was good, and he loved me once. I have to believe that, or I have to believe he loved me at some point, because if he never loved me, then I do not know how to live with that. We met in college. I was studying English literature, and he was in my American history class. I remember he was sitting 2 rows behind me, and when the professor asked a question about the Civil War, David raised his hand and gave an answer that was funny and smart at the same time. Everyone laughed, and I remember thinking, that boy is interesting. I want to know him. It took him 3 weeks to finally talk to me. He sat next to me in the library one afternoon, and he just smiled and said, "Hi, I am David." Just like that. So simple, so easy. I remember asking him why he waited so long, and he said that he was nervous. He said he wanted to make sure he could make me laugh, the way I laughed in class, before he tried to talk to me. That was the kind of person David was. He thought about other people's feelings. Or at least, I thought he did. We started dating in the fall of that year. For 2 years, we barely spent a day apart. We would study together, eat dinner together, take walks around campus, just talking about everything we wanted to do with our lives. David wanted to be an accountant. He liked numbers and logic and things that made sense. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to stand in front of a classroom and help young people discover the beauty of words and stories. When we graduated, David got a job at a big accounting firm. I got hired at a high school not far from where we lived. We were so excited. We were going to have real jobs. We were going to have real lives. We were going to be adults. A year later, David asked me to marry him. He did it on a beach at sunset. He got down on one knee, and his hands were shaking, and he cried when I said yes. I remember thinking, this man loves me so much. This is what it feels like to be loved like this. I am so lucky. We got married the following June. It was a small wedding with family and close friends. My mother wore a blue dress, and she cried through the whole ceremony. David's father gave a speech about how happy he was to gain a daughter. Everything felt perfect. Everything felt like the beginning of something beautiful. For the first 10 years, it really was beautiful. David was promoted at his firm. I got offered a position as a department head at the school. We bought a small house with a garden in the back. We painted the walls together. We hung pictures of our families. We made a home. We did not have children. This was a choice we made together. David did not want kids, and I did not either. I had always wanted to focus on my career, and David said that he was happy with just me. He said that our life together was enough. He would put his arms around me and say, "You are all I need." I believed him. For so many years, I believed him. We had a routine. David would leave for work at 7 in the morning. I would leave at 7:30. We would both come home around 6. We would make dinner together. We would sit in the living room and watch the news. We would go to bed around 10. On weekends, we would go to the farmer's market on Saturday morning. We would have lunch with friends on Saturday evening. On Sunday, we would rest. We would read books. We would just be together. It was quiet. It was simple. But it was ours. It was comfortable. I thought it was everything. David had a group of friends that he saw regularly. They would go out for drinks on Friday nights sometimes. They would go to a golf course on weekend mornings. I met these friends many times over the years. There was Tom, who was also an accountant. There was Michael, who worked in real estate. There was Steve, who was a doctor. They seemed like good men. They had their own families, their own lives. I never felt worried about David spending time with them. I was happy that he had people to laugh with, people he could be himself around. We had arguments sometimes. Every couple does. I remember one argument where I wanted to go on a vacation to Europe, and David did not want to spend that much money. He said we needed to save for retirement. I said I wanted to see Rome and Paris before we got too old. We did not go on that trip. We stayed home that summer instead. I remember feeling disappointed, but I also remember understanding his point. He was always careful with money. He was always thinking about the future. Another time, I wanted to have my mother come and stay with us for 3 months while she recovered from surgery. David said that 3 months was too long. He said it would be stressful on our marriage. We compromised, and she stayed for 6 weeks. During those weeks, David was quiet. He was not mean to my mother, but he was not warm either. He was just quiet. After she left, things went back to normal. I tell you these things because I want you to understand that we were not perfect. We had problems like every couple has problems, but the problems felt small compared to the love we had. Or the love I thought we had. When David turned 50, I planned a big birthday party. I called all his friends. I called his brother who lived 3 states away. I decorated the house with balloons and lights. I made his favorite foods. 60 people came to celebrate him. I remember him standing in our living room, looking around at everyone who loved him, and he had tears in his eyes. He pulled me aside and he thanked me. He said, "This is the best night of my life. You are the best thing that ever happened to me." He kissed me in front of everyone. I felt so proud. I felt so loved. That was 5 years ago. Looking back now, I do not know if he meant those words or if he was already planning something different. I do not know if he was already feeling trapped. I do not know when he stopped loving me. But I think about that night often. I think about how happy he seemed. I think about whether that happiness was real or if it was just a good performance. David worked very hard at his firm. He became a partner when he was 45. This was a big achievement. He was one of the youngest partners in the company's history. I was so proud of him. I planned a nice dinner to celebrate. I wore a dress I had been saving. He looked handsome in his suit. We went to an expensive restaurant. He ordered wine. We toasted to his success. That night, he told me that he was going to make more money now. He said we could finally do some of the things we had always wanted to do, but we did not do those things. The years passed, and David worked more hours. He started coming home later. He said the job was demanding. He said he had to prove himself as a partner. I understood. I knew what it meant to work hard. I knew what it meant to care about your career. So I waited for him. I made dinner and kept it warm. I went to bed alone many nights. I told myself that this was temporary. I told myself that once he got settled into his position, things would slow down. I told myself that we would have more time together soon, but soon never came. The years just kept passing. And one morning, when David said he had a surprise for me, I did not know it would be the kind of surprise that destroys everything. Looking back now, I can see where things started to shift. But at the time, the changes were so small that I almost did not notice them. That is how people lose each other sometimes. Not with a big argument or a sudden betrayal, but with 1,000 tiny moments where someone pulls away just a little bit more. It started about 3 years before everything fell apart. David started working even later. He would call and say that he had to stay at the office for another hour, then another hour. Soon he was staying until 9 or 10 at night, several nights a week. I remember asking him what was going on. I remember asking if the firm was having problems. He said no, everything was fine. He said he just had a lot on his plate. He said he was working on some big accounts that took a lot of time. I believed him. I had no reason not to believe him. David had never lied to me before, or at least, I did not think he had. I told him that I understood. I told him to take care of himself. I told him that his career was important. At the same time, David became distant in other ways. He stopped asking about my day. We used to have long conversations about what happened at school, about the students, about the books we were reading. But he stopped asking. When I tried to tell him about a student who was struggling, he would just nod and not really listen. I could see his mind was somewhere else. He would be looking at his phone or thinking about something else. I remember feeling hurt, but I told myself that he was just tired. I told myself that he was stressed. I told myself that this was temporary. He also stopped wanting to do things together. Friday nights used to be our night. We would sometimes go out to dinner or to a movie. But David started staying late at the office on Fridays too. He said he was too tired to go out. He said he wanted to stay home and rest. So I stopped planning Friday nights. I stopped looking forward to that time together. In the bedroom, things changed too. For all the years we were married, David and I had always been affectionate. It was a quiet affection, a gentle affection, but it was there. He would kiss me in the morning before work. He would hold my hand while we watched television. We would make love regularly, maybe once or twice a week. We were comfortable with each other's bodies. We were not embarrassed. We were intimate, but about 2 years before everything happened, David stopped being interested in sex. At first, I thought maybe he was having some kind of health problem. I asked him about it gently. I said, "Is everything okay? Are you feeling sick?" He said no, everything was fine. He said he was just tired. He said maybe we were getting older and his sex drive was just going down. I accepted that. I read that it was normal for men his age, but I felt the rejection deeply. I did not say anything because I did not want to make him feel bad. But inside, I felt lonely. I felt like he did not want me anymore. I felt like I was losing him. I just did not know it yet. Around this same time, David bought a new phone. He said it was for work. He said the company was updating all the employee technology. But he became very protective of the phone. He never left it on the table like he used to. He kept it in his pocket. He would look at it while he was thinking, like he was checking messages or reading something. I remember one night, David's work phone rang while we were having dinner. He looked at it and got up from the table. He said he had to take the call. He went to the garage to answer it. I remember thinking, why would he have to go to the garage to take a work call? I thought maybe the connection was bad in the house. I did not think it meant anything bad. He was gone for about 20 minutes. When he came back, he was quiet. He did not tell me what the call was about. I asked him, and he said it was just some account issue that needed to be dealt with. He said it was boring. He did not want to talk about it. I told myself that I was overthinking things. I told myself that David deserved privacy. I told myself that I was being paranoid. But there was something in my chest that felt tight. There was something that felt wrong, even though I could not point to anything specific. David's friends started noticing things too, though I did not know it at the time. One day, Tom came by the house to pick up David for golf. This was about a year and a half before everything happened. Tom was one of David's closest friends. They had known each other since university. Tom said to me, "Is David doing okay? He seems different lately." I asked him what he meant. Tom said, "I do not know exactly. He just seems like his mind is somewhere else. He does not laugh as much as he used to. When we talk, he seems distracted." I remember feeling a cold feeling go down my spine. If David's best friend had noticed something, then maybe I was not just being paranoid. Maybe something really was changing. But I did not know what to do with that information. I did not want to confront David. I did not want him to think I was questioning him or that I did not trust him. So I just kept quiet. I just kept waiting. I kept hoping that whatever was going on, it would pass, but it did not pass. If anything, it got worse. About 6 months before David told me he had a surprise for me, he joined a gym. This was odd because David had never been interested in exercise. He had always said it was boring and tedious. But suddenly, he wanted to go to the gym. He said that he was feeling out of shape. He said that he wanted to get healthier. At first, I thought this was a good thing. I encouraged him. I said it was great that he was taking care of himself. I told him I was proud of him. But then I noticed that he was going to the gym every single day. Even on days when he said he was too tired to spend time with me, he would go to the gym. He started taking longer showers when he came home from the gym. He started buying new clothes that were nicer than what he usually wore. He started getting his hair cut more frequently. He started wearing cologne. Nice cologne. Expensive smelling cologne. I remember one day, I asked him, "Why are you getting so fancy all of a sudden?" I was trying to say it in a light way, trying to make a joke of it. But inside, I was starting to feel afraid. I was starting to think about all the things I had read about marriages ending. I was starting to wonder if there was someone else. David looked at me, and he said, "Can I not take care of myself? Can I not want to feel good?" The way he said it made me feel small. It made me feel like I had done something wrong by asking the question. So I apologized. I said, "Of course, I am sorry. I think it is wonderful that you are taking care of yourself." I did not mean anything by it, but inside, I felt worse. I felt like he was hiding something. I felt like he was angry at me for asking. I felt like I was losing him, but I still did not know what was happening. The weeks went on. David became more and more distant. He stopped talking about his day at all. When I asked him what happened at work, he would just say nothing much or just the usual. He stopped asking about my students. He stopped asking about my friends. He stopped asking about me at all. One night, I tried to talk to him about it. We were in bed, and I said, "David, I feel like we are not really talking anymore. I feel like we are growing apart. Can we talk about this?" He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I am just tired." I am under a lot of stress at work. I need some space right now. I asked him what he meant by space. He said, I just need some time to myself. I need time to think. I did not ask about what he needed to think about. I was too scared. I was too afraid of what the answer might be. So I just said, okay, I understand, but I did not understand. I was confused and hurt, and I was starting to be afraid. I started to think about calling a therapist. I thought maybe if we had someone to help us talk, David would open up. I thought maybe a professional could help us understand what was happening. But I was scared to suggest it. I was scared that David would think I was saying our marriage was broken. I was scared that I would be making things worse. So I just waited. I kept the house clean. I kept making dinner. I kept trying to be the person David had fallen in love with all those years ago. I kept trying to make myself small and easy to love. I kept trying not to ask questions or make demands, and David kept growing further and further away from me. 3 months before he told me about the surprise. David said he was going on a business trip. He said he had to go to Chicago for a week for a big client meeting. I remember feeling relieved in a strange way. I thought maybe if he had some time away, he would clear his head. I thought maybe he would come back and we could start over. I thought maybe this would be the thing that reminded him why he loved me. I helped him pack. I made sure he had everything he needed. I drove him to the airport. He kissed me goodbye, but it was the kind of kiss you give someone you are not really connected to. It was automatic. It was not warm. It was just something that needed to be done. While he was gone, I called my mother. I told her that I thought David might be having an affair. I told her about all the things I had noticed. She tried to make me feel better. She said that maybe I was just being paranoid. She said that maybe he was just going through something and would come out of it. She said that marriage had rough patches, and this was just one of them, but I knew something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. I could feel it in the way my chest felt tight whenever I thought about David. I could feel it in the way I had stopped smiling as much. I could feel it in the way I was starting to lose myself. When David came back from Chicago, he did not seem any better. If anything, he seemed worse. He seemed resolved about something. He seemed like he had made a decision. He seemed sad and distant, but also like he was waiting for something. Like he was waiting for the right moment to say something. And then one Tuesday morning, while I was making coffee, he came behind me and put his arms around my waist. And he said he had a surprise for me. I have tried to remember exactly what I was feeling that morning before I knew. I have tried to go back in my mind to that moment when I was still innocent. When I still believed that my husband loved me. When I still thought that whatever surprise he had planned, it was because he wanted to make me happy. The sun was coming through the kitchen window in that particular way it does in October. There was dust in the light. I remember seeing it, and it was beautiful. I was wearing David's old sweater that he never wore anymore. I have lost it since then. I do not know where it went. I wish I still had it. I turned around, and I smiled at him. That smile is something I am ashamed of now. It was so trusting. It was so full of hope. It was so completely wrong. David smiled back, but it was a sad smile. I did not understand it at the time. I thought maybe he was just excited about whatever he was going to tell me. But now I know that was a sad smile because he felt guilty. It was a sad smile because he was about to hurt me and some part of him. The part that still remembered who we were to each other. Felt something about that. He said, I have something to tell you, and I want you to listen without interrupting me. Can you do that? I felt my stomach drop a little bit, but I nodded. I said, okay, tell me. I remember that my heart was beating fast. I remember that some part of me already knew that this was not going to be good news. He let go of me and sat down at the kitchen table. He asked me to sit down too. So I sat across from him and I waited. He took a very long time to speak. He just sat there, looking at his hands. I could see that he was struggling with something. I could see that this was hard for him. I did not understand that the hard part was lying to me, not telling me the truth. Finally, he said, "I love you. I want you to know that before I say anything else. I have always loved you. You have been the most important person in my life for a very long time." I felt confused. Why was he saying these things? Why did it feel like goodbye? Then he said, "But I think I have made a mistake. I think maybe I made a mistake a long time ago." I asked him what he meant. He said, "I think I made a mistake when I decided not to have children with you. I think I made a mistake when I let you convince me that our life together was enough. I think I have been suppressing something inside me for so long, and I cannot do it anymore." I did not understand what he was talking about. I said, "David, what are you saying? What kind of mistake?" He looked at me, and I saw pain in his eyes. I saw fear. I saw something that looked like the end of something. He said, "I am not sure I am happy. I have not been sure for a long time. I have been thinking about what my life is supposed to be, and I do not think this is it. I do not think this is what I want anymore." I asked him what he wanted. He said, "I do not know yet. That is why I need to figure it out." I remember feeling like I was in a dream. I remember thinking, this cannot be happening. This cannot be the surprise he was talking about. I said, "David, are you talking about leaving me?" He did not answer right away. He just looked at me, and in that silence, I knew that everything I thought was true was not true. I knew that the life I thought I had was not real. He said, "I think I need to take some time away. I think I need to be alone for a while. I think I need to figure out who I am without all of this." I felt like the world was tilting. I felt like I could not breathe properly. I said, "What does all of this mean? Does it mean me? Does it mean our marriage?" He did not answer. He did not have to answer. I could see the answer in his face. I stood up. I said, "I do not understand. I do not understand what is happening. We were fine. We were good. Everything was okay." David looked at me, and he said, "No, we were not fine. I was not fine. I have not been fine for a long time." I wanted to ask him about the gym. I wanted to ask him about the cologne and the new clothes. I wanted to ask him if there was someone else. But I could not make myself ask those questions. I was too shocked. I was too hurt. Instead, I just sat back down. I put my head in my hands. I did not cry. I could not cry. I was frozen. David said, "I have already made arrangements. I am going to stay with Tom for a while. I think I will stay there for about a month, and during that time, we can talk about what we want to do next. I think we should probably talk to a lawyer about how to handle everything." A lawyer. He was talking about lawyers. He was talking about ending our marriage like it was a business transaction. I looked at him, and I said, "Is there someone else? Is that what this is about?" He was quiet, and that quiet was the answer. I said, "Tell me. Please just tell me the truth." David took a deep breath, and he said, "There is someone I have been spending time with. It is not serious yet, but it could be. I do not know. I just know that I have been feeling things I have not felt in a very long time. I know that I have been alive in a way I have not been alive for years." Those words hurt worse than anything else he said. It was not the fact that there was someone else. It was the fact that he felt more alive with someone else than he ever felt with me. It was the fact that our entire life together, all the years we spent building something, was not enough to keep him alive. I asked him who it was. He said it was someone from work. I asked him how long it had been going on. He said it had been about 6 months. 6 months. That entire time when he was distant and cold and rebuilding himself, he was doing it for someone else. He was making himself more beautiful for someone else. He was waking up every morning and thinking about someone else. I said, "I do not understand. Did I do something wrong? Did I hurt you? Did I not love you enough?" David said, "It is not about you. It is not about anything you did. It is just about me. It is just about what I want and what I need. I said, and what you want and what you need does not include me. He did not answer. We sat in silence for a long time. I remember the coffee going cold on the counter. I remember the dust in the sunlight still moving slowly through the air. I remember thinking, how can the world still look so beautiful when everything inside me is falling apart? Finally, I asked him to leave. I could not look at him anymore. I could not sit across from him and try to process the fact that my marriage was over. I said, just go. Go stay with Tom, go be with your new person. Just leave me alone. He stood up, and he tried to reach for my hand. He said, I am so sorry. I did not want to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you. I pulled my hand away. I said, but you did. You hurt me. You destroyed me. He left the room. I heard him going upstairs to pack some things. I heard drawers opening and closing. I heard him moving around the house that we had bought together and painted together and filled with our lives. And I just sat there in the kitchen, staring at the cold coffee, wondering when the moment was that he stopped loving me. Wondering if he ever really loved me at all. When he came back downstairs, he was carrying a suitcase. He stopped in the doorway to the kitchen. He said, I will call you tomorrow. We can talk more then. I did not say anything. He stood there for a moment, waiting for me to say something. Then he left. I heard the car start. I heard him drive away. And that is when I cried. That is when everything I had been holding broke open. I cried so hard that I could not breathe. I cried so hard that I thought my body was going to break apart. I cried for all the years we spent together. I cried for the future I thought we were going to have. I cried for the person I was that morning before everything changed. Before I knew that my husband had been planning to leave me, I remember sitting on the kitchen floor, in the middle of the day, in the clothes he had bought for me, crying until I had nothing left inside me. The days that came after David left are very hard for me to talk about. They feel like they happened to someone else. They feel like someone else's nightmare. But they happened to me, and I have to tell you about them because that is part of my story. I did not leave the house for 3 days. I just sat in the living room and did not do anything. I did not eat. I did not shower. I did not change my clothes. I just sat there and thought about all the moments I would never have. I thought about all the plans we made that would never happen. I thought about all the ways I had failed. My mother called me. She could tell something was wrong from the sound of my voice. I told her what happened. She cried on the phone. She said, "Oh, sweetheart, I am so sorry. I am so sorry." She asked me if I wanted her to come stay with me. I said yes, because I did not know how to be alone. She drove out the next day. She held me while I cried. She did not try to make it better. She did not try to tell me that I would get over it or that God had a plan or any of the things people usually say. She just sat with me in my pain. She just let me be broken. The lawyer called 2 days after David left. He said that David had retained him and asked him to contact me about the divorce. I remember feeling like someone had hit me in the chest. Divorce, that word was so real. That word meant the end of everything. I hired my own lawyer. I went to the office, and I sat across from a woman named Patricia, and I told her about my husband and the life we built together. I told her about the 32 years we spent as a couple. I told her about our home and our savings, and everything we owned together. Patricia listened, and then she said, "This is going to be difficult, but we are going to protect you. You are entitled to half of everything. We are going to make sure you are taken care of." But I did not want to be taken care of by lawyers and money. I wanted my husband back. I wanted things to be the way they were. I wanted to go back to that Tuesday morning and have a different conversation. I wanted to wake up and find out that this was all a dream, but it was not a dream. It was real. And I had to figure out how to live with that. David, and I started communicating through lawyers instead of through each other. It was cold and formal. It was nothing like the way we used to communicate, which was warm and gentle and real. Everything we said now was documented. Everything we said now became evidence in the end of our marriage. David wanted half of the money in our savings account. He wanted to keep his car. He wanted half of our furniture. He wanted to be fair, his lawyer said. He wanted to divide things equally. But I did not want things divided equally. I wanted my life back. And there was no lawyer that could give me that. One day, about a week after David left, I got a phone call from Tom. He was calling to tell me that David was not staying with him anymore. He said that David had moved in with the woman from his office. He said that he wanted me to hear it from a friend before I found out another way. Tom was very kind. He said, for what it is worth, I told David that I thought he was making a huge mistake. I told him that he was throwing away the best thing in his life. But he did not listen to me. I remember thanking Tom for calling me, even though hearing it made me feel worse. I remember hanging up the phone and going to the bathroom and throwing up. I remember thinking about David being in someone else's house, being in someone else's bed, being alive with someone else in the way that he said he had never felt alive with me. I did not know who this woman was. I did not know her name, or what she looked like, or what David saw in her that he did not see in me. Part of me wanted to know everything about her. Part of me wanted to understand what was so special about her. But another part of me knew that knowing would not help. It would only make things worse. My mother stayed with me for 2 months. During that time, she helped me eat, even though I did not want to. She helped me shower and change my clothes and leave the house. She took me to the lawyer's office. She sat with me while I signed papers that ended my marriage. She did not complain. She just did what needed to be done. One day, she said to me, "You have to let him go. I know it is hard, but you have to let him go. If you do not let him go, he will poison you. He will take up space inside your heart that could be used for healing." I remember thinking that she was right. But I also did not know how to let go of someone I had spent my entire adult life with. I went back to work about a month after David left. I had to take some time off, and when I came back, my principal was very kind. He said that if I needed anything, I should let him know. My students were glad to see me. They did not understand what had happened, but they could see that I was different. They could see that something had changed inside me. I remember standing in front of my class one day, teaching about poetry, and I started to cry. I had to excuse myself and go to the bathroom. One of my students, a girl named Maya, came to check on me. She was only 16, but she was very mature. She said, "Mrs. David, are you okay?" I realized that they all called me Mrs. David, as if being David's wife was part of my identity. And soon,